Imagine telling people for years someone is watching you, following you, calling you, threatening you, breaking into your home, hurting you, and little by little, people stop believing you. And then one day, you are found dead. And suddenly everyone asks, wait, what if she was telling the truth? Now, before we begin, thank you for being part of Mind-Bending Mysteries. And if you truly enjoy this content, please like, subscribe, and turn notifications on so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you know someone who would enjoy these stories too, sharing the video truly helps the channel grow. And honestly, we're just getting started. Welcome to Mind-Bending Mysteries. My name is Tammy, and tonight's story is one of those cases that people finish and immediately choose sides. Now, some people hear this story and think someone was terrorizing her. Others hear it and think something psychological was happening. And the uncomfortable truth is, nobody fully knows. Now, everything you're about to hear is based on documented police reports, interviews, public records, media reporting, and investigation findings surrounding the death of Cindy James. And some conclusions remain debated. Theories discussed tonight are speculation, not established fact. And tonight, that matters. Now, the story begins in Vancouver, British Columbia, in the early 1980s. Cindy James was a nurse. People described her as intelligent, caring, organized, professional. By all public accounts, she lived what looked like an ordinary life. But eventually something changed. Now, according to Cindy, someone began stalking her. And at first, it reportedly started with phone calls, threatening calls, heavy breathing, messages, then letters. Then, according to reports, the incidents escalated. Now picture this, you're sitting at home, the phone rings, nobody answers, again, and at first annoying, then strange, then frightening, then you start checking locks. That's important because fear changes routine. Now, according to reports, Cindy told people that she felt watched. Then allegedly came incidences involving notes, property damage, strange encounters, and physical attacks. Now hold on, because this is where the story changes. People initially believe her, friends believed her, police investigated, but over time, investigators reportedly became frustrated because despite years of incidents, they struggled to identify a suspect, and in some situations, details became difficult to verify. And this is where the case starts dividing people, because eventually questions emerged. Could someone really stalk a person for years without ever being caught? Or was something else happening? Now, another detail often discussed publicly was Cindy's former husband. Now, her ex-husband was a psychiatrist. Now, immediately people online started building theories. Hold on, let's slow it down. Her former husband was investigated. No charges were brought, and he denied involvement. Now, that doesn't prove innocence, and it doesn't prove guilt. It simply means investigators never established he was responsible. But naturally, people continue wondering, because psychology becomes an unavoidable part of the story. Now, according to reports, the incidents reportedly became more serious. And at different times, Cindy was allegedly found injured, distressed, or describing attacks. Now, one reported event involved her being found bound. Another reportedly involved a fire. And this is where public opinion started changing, because some people became deeply convinced someone was targeting her. Others began wondering whether Cindy herself could somehow be connected to the events. And honestly, that question feels uncomfortable, because imagine genuinely feeling afraid and people slowly stop believing you. That idea alone is terrifying. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. People fake things all the time, and yes, sometimes they do. But here's where this story becomes difficult. Not every reported incident fits neatly into one explanation. Some details seemed hard to explain, others seemed inconsistent, and eventually, the case became increasingly complicated. Then came the day everything changed. In May of 1989, Cindy disappeared. People searched, days passed, then her body was discovered. And this is the detail people still talk about. She was found in an abandoned area. Now, according to reporting, her hands and feet were bound, and nearby, investigators found medication. Now, immediately people began asking impossible questions. If someone killed her, who? And if she did this herself, how? And honestly, that question still frustrates people today, because the official findings eventually leaned towards suicide, but many people found parts of the case difficult emotionally. Not necessarily because the conclusion was impossible, but because the road leading there felt so unusual. And people started asking, if she staged years of fear, why? And if someone terrorized her, how did they never get caught? Now, if this was psychological, how did events become so extreme? And maybe that's why this case continues haunting people, because unlike many mysteries, this one doesn't end cleanly. There's no confession, no arrest, no final answer, just a woman, years of fear, and a story that people still interpret completely differently. Now, this next thought stayed with me. Human beings need validation. When someone tells you something frightening and we don't understand, sometimes we stop believing. But sometimes people are experiencing something very real, even if the explanation isn't what we expected. Now, that doesn't make this case simple. It makes it human. Now, before we finish, I want to ask you something, and be honest. If someone told you for years that they were being watched, at what point would you stop believing them? And what if you were wrong? Because this is where that line finally belongs, because mystery without discipline becomes misinformation. And we can hold space for questions without pretending we know answers. We don't. Now, maybe Cindy James was the victim of someone, who was never identified. Maybe she was fighting something invisible that others couldn't fully see. Or maybe the truth lies somewhere in the uncomfortable space between both possibilities. I don't think this case scares people because of the death. I think it scares people because of doubt. Because once trust breaks, people stop knowing what's real. And maybe the most haunting question of all is not what happened to Cindy, but why would we have believed her? From my coast to yours, have a wonderful night.